So I'm sitting here with Bruce Dickson, who is on the West Coast of the United States, and who is one of the, I don't know how you would say it, a founding father of the kinesiology world, somebody who's been doing this for a lot longer than me, and has recently put a book out there called Befriending Your Biology, Health from the Inside Out. And so we're just taking a brief moment to talk about what's here in this book, why would it be useful to practitioners, and how you can get your hands on your own copy.
Well, thank you, Alexis. I don't consider myself a founding father of kinesiology. I have self-published 22 books on kinesiology topics, but this is not about that. So this book is really a kind of a news flash. We boil it down to one sentence. And newsflash is there now is a method of defining what optimal health is in numerical values that we can compare and see if the values are higher or lower than what's optimal. And what's being measured that's optimal is the chemistry of our lymph, our internal waters, our internal living waters. So our lymph and the water between our cells, called the interstitial fluid, is the water that all our cells and organs have to live in. And this seems to be nature's plan for what human beings are supposed to be in control of. Let's compare this to the pH of the blood. The pH of the blood is not under our control. It has to be between 7.3 and 7.4 pH, something like that. Numbers vary somewhat. That is not under our control. Nature does not give us the right or the privilege or the opportunity to control that pH. Our lymph is not like that. Our internal waters are not like that. So raise your hand, everybody, if you've seen a picture online of the fish in the fishbowl and the dirty fish water jumping out of the dirty fish bowl water into the clean fish bowl water. Oh, I see many hands. Good. You've seen that image. Good. That's what we're talking about. That fish bowl is a metaphor for the lymph, not the body, just the lymph, not the bloodstream, just the lymph. So this guy in 1931 named Kerry Reams, who was a doctor, was a clairaudient at times, was clairvoyant at times, and was Christian before Christian fundamentalism in the 1930s. And a neighborhood family came to him and said, our son is 3 years old and he's dying. The doctors don't know what to do. Can you help us? So he was invited to be of service. And he took this very seriously because of his faith. And so he prayed and fasted. And I think he talked to the angels, who were the same angels that talk in Leviticus in the Bible about do this, don't do that for health. And he likes those ideas, and a lot of them are quite valid. So he may have talked to those same angels, but because Reams was very interested in Einstein, and E equals mc squared was a big deal back then, like the Marvel universe is now. I'm not making that up. E equals mc squared was as famous then as the Marvel universe, movie universe is now. It was a big deal. So he took that kind of wisdom, like what does nature want mankind to learn so it can take charge of its own health? And he had a soil chemistry and biology background, and he had degrees in those things. And so without a computer, without a calculator, just on big sheets of paper, he wrote pages and pages of calculations, and he came up with a number array. That's the 7 numbers for what the optimal chemistry of our lymph system is. Now, this is way different than what medical doctors are doing. Medical doctors use vital signs where health is defined as average. Health is defined as normal. Health is defined as you can go to work and come back, or go to school and come back. It's very fuzzy. It's very fuzzy what health is. And Reams defined it in numerical terms, what are really called biomarkers, numerical biomarkers. So just to make it simple, if all the biomarkers are like this, and you do your test of your lymph system, tell you how in a moment, and you're too alkaline, you're up here, you need to take calcium to lower your pH to get the pH to the optimal value for your lymph. If you're down here, you're too acidic, you need to take more alkaline calcium to raise your pH to get it to the optimal alkalinity, optimal pH for your lymph. This is what the fishbowl metaphor is about. And I've never seen it explained in a really good way. The metaphor is correct, but almost all the information about pH online is misinformation. And that's a bold statement, but it really is true. There's a long history to that. Some of it's in the book, but basically the good news is you can claim this for yourself if you want to. Now, let's two more topics. So how do you test it? How do you test your lymph system? Do you have to do a biopsy? No. Do you have to take your temperature? No, though I think that's probably not a bad idea. Basal body temperature is great. Do you have to take a blood test? No. Nature gave the human being two natural, accessible lymph products, two expressions of our lymph system that are highly accessible. And those are, and some of you are not going to like this, but if you like it, keep listening, your saliva and your urine. Now, this is not New Age woo-woo. This is not Reiki. This is not energy healing. This is not prayer to Isis and Egyptology and sound healing. This is biology. This is chemistry and biology. This is left brain. Left brain. The woo-woo stuff is on the right brain. The intuition is on the right brain. That's good. But we want both sides working, not just woo-woo. We want both sides. So it can be very impactful. It was very impactful for me as a person who started out very woo-woo with Touch for Health to learn some biology and chemistry so that I could understand what my body was doing and what it needed next. And now I kind of ran out of steam. So
No, I appreciate that. And that's a conversation that I've had with so many people when you talk about the misinformation about pH, because people will say things like, well, disease can't live in an alkaline environment, so everybody needs to alkalize. And I have to go, no, you've got different systems in your body that require different pHs. Your blood's pH is stable. Your large intestine needs to be in an acidic state. Your stomach needs to be in an acidic state. Your reproductive system needs to be in an acidic, like there's parts of your body that are meant to have different pHs. And if we are in balance, our body then creates the right ratio, right?
Yeah, there's actually a chart of the optimal pH of the organs. I didn't know there was such a chart. I'm 70 and I only heard about this chart this year. And I've been studying this stuff since the mid 60s. So not many people know that this information is around. So this thing that I'm talking about has a name. If you look it up online, it's called R, letter B as in boy, letter T as in Tom, letter I as in Intel. And it stands for a long, complicated thing that I won't even talk to you about. The better phrase is probably urine saliva biomarker analysis. And that's how it's talked about in the book. Now I use both terms because we're in a transition period, so people will want to know both. But there's not much good online. Now, the other thing we're talking about here in this brief thing is if you're very sick, many sick people are desperate, and with Reiki, you can get a Reiki. You can be very sick and get a Reiki treatment and probably not be damaged by it. But if you're very sick and you start messing with the pH of your lymph system, pH of your liver, it's going to affect your liver right away. You can injure yourself if you don't know what you're doing. So we really don't want very sick people saying, I've got cancer, tell me which calcium to take. We don't want to do it. We want to slow that whole thing down. We want them to talk to a trained RBTI practitioner. There's a world map. It's called Friends of RBTI World Map. And I think it's called the updated version or the remake. We had to remake it. But if you can Google, there's a Google map of everybody that we know of who's willing to be on the map so far, who does RBTI analysis, consulting, and testing. And you can get these people, or you can get the equipment, but the equipment's a couple $100. But for people that are generally healthy, and that's going to include most people who are kinesiology practitioners who are already mostly healthy, it's going to benefit them to get their hydrogen paper out. Most of you probably have little things like this, and you've seen this before. This is not news to you. You've seen it with the fishbowl pictures. You get that out. You do your little test 2 hours after a main meal, breakfast or lunch. And if you're acid, you take more alkaline calcium. If you're alkaline, you take more acid calcium. I hope I said that right. But you take the opposing calcium. And I have instructions. I'd be happy to send people. So unless you have more questions, I'll just tell people where they can access this. Any other questions, Alexis?
Not another question. I think the only other thing I would love to say is that for the SIPS people watching this, the things that I've seen in this book correlate really beautifully to some of the stuff that we do in SIPS Bio, where we talk about terrain theory and the internal malo and Gaston Nissen's work. And I could see how the two would work really beautifully together.
This is true. Let's say a little more about that. The Béchamp and Pasteur and all those people are we have to kind of really push them aside, and we have to kind of call that terrain theory 1.0. That was terrain theory 1.0, but they never got to terrain theory 2.0. Terrain theory 2.0 starts in 1931, way after all the other stuff, with Reams talking about the lymph. The lymph is the terrain 2.0, the start of terrain theory 2.0. Then you start measuring it with your hydrogen paper, or there are better ways to measure it. This is the kind of the cheapest, easiest, but least accurate way. And then you can do more from that. There, for the SIPS people also, there is a ton of free material that is online from the RBTI people, a ton of it. Most of it is very good, not all of it, but most of it is very good. And I have a lot of this, and people can email me. So if people want to contact me, they can. I'm at healingtoolbox, all one word, at gmail.com. I'm happy to. People can email me. The book is Befriending Your Biology, Physical Health from the Inside Out. That's on Kindle. I haven't made the paper version yet. I'm also serializing it on medium.com, Substack, and LinkedIn, and that will give you a good sense of it. And that's really about it.
So for somebody who wants to get a hold of this, either on their Kindle or to be getting it piece by piece, how do they find that? Is it at Healing Toolbox?
No, go to Kindle, go to Amazon Kindle, and look up Befriending Your Biology, Bruce Dickson, Dickson, and you'll see the picture of the water girl. There's this great picture of a water girl. It's a girl meditating, but her body is made out of water. And behind her is this famous micrograph of the inside of a cell. So it's a terrific image that I have on my email.
Awesome.
We would put it up here if we knew. I guess I didn't prepare to show it to you, but you can see it.
We'll throw some of the links in with this video as well, so that it's really easy for people to click and find what they're looking for. All right. Thank you so much for explaining this resource and for making it as easy and inexpensive and available to everybody as possible.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Alex.